Executive session?
All right. Yes,
Okay.
I have it on my list. All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order and welcome you to our Committee of the Whole. We love having our chambers filled with students this morning as we celebrate Imagine a Day Without Water. So we're going to take a few moments here at the beginning of our commission meeting to recognize a number of essay winners. So I'm going to ask David Heron to come on up and provide us with some information and background on the importance of this initiative, and then we'll recognize some winners.
Thank you, Mayor.
Hi.
Do you mind if I bring
Welcome.
the students up in front?
Please, come on up.
The public outreach team, please.
It's up to you. Take it away.
No, everybody.
You know not what you asked for.
David, do you want me to come down there?
If you'd like, yeah. Sure.
Can you come,
All right, spread out.
come on more this way? You can back up. Should we stand up and take each twist?
All righty.
John.
Okay. Are we all set? All squeezed in? Perfect, thank you. So why is water important to you? Could you go a day without water? No water to drink, prepare food, no water to shower, brush your teeth. What would that day be like? In recognition of a day without water, we asked those same questions to K through 12 students through a writing contest to raise awareness and educate America about the value of water. The public outreach team at Water reviewed over 200 submissions, and we would like to honor the top finalists. I'd like to first introduce the public outreach team, who is behind me, consisting of Mike Rainier, Samaria Giffel, Isamar Contreras, and Ingrid Shearer. Also not present is Hillary Karen. But I'm going to turn it over to this team as they did a lot of work towards this effort, and I would like to give them the recognition.
Good morning. One thing that the students need to know is we did not read a bad essay in this report, and I expect everybody to be getting an A out of this project. The other thing this commission and city should know is you got a lot of smart kids here. The value of water we recognize, and I want to sum this up, is from Grace Farrell, who's a 6-year-old first grader at Coit Creative Arts Academy in the first grade. And while she hit all our points, my 6th graders did a lot better job on going really into detail, but economics, hygiene, social, all kinds of good stuff. So I'm going to quickly read this very small thing. So a day without water would be hard. I would have a dry, not cooked oatmeal for breakfast. Plants would be so thirsty they'd look sad. If my family went to the park, the drinking fountains wouldn't work, so I couldn't play very long. Mama wouldn't go to work at the YMCA pool. She would need to get a new job. Mama would be blue. She loves the pool, and so do I. My dad would be stinky for not showering. Water is important. And while Grace does a really nice job of hitting all those points, we were just absolutely blown away at the quality of work that we received from the students. We'll bring Isamar up to hand out our prizes.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So I'll be announcing the winners from Mrs. Steele's class. Is Miss Steele here? Styles, sorry. Style. So the first 2 winners is Kyler Faber. Faber. Little guy. Faber. The next one we have Xavier Miller.
All right, next we have Miss Phillips' class from CFE. We had a couple winners from there. The first one is Molly Anderson. You want to come right over here? You can get a picture. There you go. Next, we have Timothy Kavanaugh. Next, Gabrielle Gomez. Ava Vones. And last that we have this morning is Lydia Taylor. We had over 16 winners and 7 were able to be here today, so we thank you guys for coming. We appreciate you being here and your entries. And we had several donors that we wanted to thank as well. Through the city, we handed out prizes, so everybody got a little bit of something, whether it was a pass to the Grand Rapids Children's Museum or the YMCA, everybody got a little treat. So we do appreciate everybody, and thank you for participating, and we hope to see you guys next year as well. If everybody wants to sit down and have the winners stay up here to take one final picture, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
You guys want to be in the picture too? Do you want to be in the picture too? Yeah, no.
All right.
I'll keep those.
I believe so. I think we're gonna.
And then sometime today, Cameron's putting the announcement. I got news that we are part of.
Okay.
We'll do it towards the end.
Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the agenda and action items we have before us today. Congratulations again to all the students who are recognized, and it's a joy having you here in the chambers with us. All right, so Commissioners, it'll take us to our action items. First is a resolution approving the issuance of bonds in an amount not to exceed $80 million by the Economic Development Corporation of the City of Grand Rapids for a project by Clark Retirement Community. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All right, Mr. Kluster, you want to tell us about this? We had our public hearing. It's a great project, a huge investment. Glad to see it happening there in the 3rd Ward. You want to add anything?
This is just the final approval of a project that you've had a public hearing on and has been considered and approved by the Economic Development Corporation. Just as a reminder, there's an interlocal agreement between the City of Kentwood and the City of Grand Rapids, as the new debt is for Kentwood and the debt in Grand Rapids is refunding of existing debt.
Great, thanks. All right, Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to a resolution providing for the publication of and setting a date to consider a proposed ordinance amending section 1.46 of chapter 3 of title 1 of the Code of the City of Grand Rapids entitled Voting Precincts to update the boundaries of certain precincts. Can I get a motion?
Support.
All right, thank you, and I'll turn it to our city clerk to tell us about this.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be an easier process, but after reviewing the charter and stuff, it takes a little bit of time. So, precinct 711 on the, up in the Upper West Side in the First Ward, are two smaller precincts, each have about 800 or 900 voters. KEC Oakley is what we've used for years, but GRPS no longer utilizes that site. It's now run by KISD, and they don't have the same days off in their calendars, so it wasn't available. We did merge them together for the November election. It worked just fine, but and as it's getting tougher and tougher to find election locations, we had to, it just makes sense to combine those together, especially with No Reason AV, and we'll have that discussion as we look at the numbers, especially after the 2020 presidential, of how many AVs we do versus in precinct, but in keeping mind of keeping precincts small that need to be small, but I don't think we have to do that in this case. So the resolution for you is to go to 76 precincts. No other, 711 would just become precinct 11. There would be no number 7. We wouldn't change the numbers of the other one. So you'd still have 1 through 77. You just not have a number 7 on the list. And then the other part of the resolution is there's locations that we're approving for March, but those will always be moving. We're changing precinct 20 that was voting at Shawmut Hills to Covenant Living of Great Lakes. That's going to be a new precinct. And then precinct 8, which was at Wallen Woods before, went down to Stocking School, is going to go up to Shawmut Hills. So they'll be back up the hill. So they'll be closer to their home area. So that's a change. We do have some things that we found out that the former Living Word, right now, we have it as a precinct. I'm gonna have to change it because they're gonna be doing construction on that building over the next year, so I need to find a new location. I'm gonna reach out to a couple of churches in that Boston Square area. And then I gotta call, we have our contracts out right now, and I got a call from St. Thomas School saying that we can't use their gymnasium there over, and they said that was a diocese, so I made a call to the CFO of the diocese, because they said we may be hearing from other parishes about using precincts. So he wasn't aware of that, so I'm in conversation with the diocese to make sure that, because that's like 6 or 7 precincts of buildings that we use. So so I think it's going to get trickier, but there is some state law out there that are expanding potential uses too for precincts. So I'll keep you up to date. Changing polling locations is easier than changing boundaries. So we have a 60-day window, we can do that. So we're constantly looking at that, and we try to make as much update to, sending out postcards and information and getting information out there as we have to make changes. So thank you.
Mayor.
All right, so commissioners, questions? This would set a date for the consideration, the resolution on December 3rd. So Commissioner Kelly, questions?
Yeah, I just appreciate doing this earlier rather than later, because we are heading into a very important election next year. It's unfortunate that we might have to look at some additional changes due to the diocese concerns, but again, we don't want to announce these changes too late, so the earlier the better, so that people can get used to this, because they'll have an opportunity to vote before next November.
Great, thanks. All right, any other comments or questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. All right, next up, we'll take us to our 4th resolution. This is a resolution establishing an industrial development district for Clipper Belt Lacer Company at a property to become known as 1854 North Ridge Drive Northwest in Walkerview.
So moved.
All right, Mr. Klooster, you want to tell us about this? We also had a public hearing on this at our last meeting.
Yep, again, final approval for an industrial development district, and the next item is related to the application for an industrial facilities exemption certificate for Flexco, which is a company currently located on Oak Industrial Drive. They will be building a $30 million facility, 288,000 square feet in the Walkerview Industrial Park, and will be bringing all of their 159 employees and adding 7 or more jobs over the next couple years with average wages of $23 an hour. The reason that it's to become known is that the property is being split from a larger parcel, and the split is not complete, but the address will be 1854 North Ridge Drive.
Great. Commissioners, any questions?
I have a question.
Commissioner?
Sure, Mr. Klooster. Any idea of what they are going to, what the plans are for the existing facility that they're moving out of?
Yeah, they do. We've been in conversations with them. Excuse me. There is another company in Grand Rapids that needs some room to expand, and so they are working with that company currently. They have 2 buildings on Oak Industrial
Yep.
Drive, so there is interest in them. There's limited industrial space in Grand Rapids, and
Yes.
so, yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Great, thanks. That's good to know. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, and that takes us to a companion item, which is item number 5. That's a resolution approving an application for an industrial facilities exemption certificate filed by Clipper Belt Laser Company for a $30 million project located at the property, again to be known as 1854 North Ridge Drive Northwest.
Move. Support?
All right, Commissioners, any other additional questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, Commissioners, as we get to our next 3 items, I'm going to hopefully set this up appropriately. So we're gonna start with just an overview of the 3 items before us. I'm going to ask Ms. Turkelson to do that for us. I've been given some updated language since the last time we voted on this. So I want to make sure all of us are clear on the process. And so what is before us today is a resolution. We have 3 resolutions, and they are each to object to a separation distance. So if there's no support by the commission to object to the waiver request, then there's no need to make a motion or to second it or to move the item. If we do object to it, that's when we need to take it up for consideration. So is that clear?
So in other words, they've received the waiver.
They haven't.
They have
So
not.
it hasn't gone before the planning commission yet. So
Gotcha.
we hear it first, and then we let the planning commission know if we object
We
to the
don't, we don't
waiver.
have to support, but
Right.
we have our authority allows us to object.
Yep, gotcha.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So, so that's the distinction. It's just us giving feedback to the planning commission as they make their decision, and we need to notify them if we object to a separation distance waiver.
Point of order, I guess, just from a governance standpoint, like normally we would put a motion on the floor to have a discussion about it. So how will that be handled so we know when to properly weigh in?
Yeah, so what I'd prefer to do is to just have Ms. Turkelson available to answer any questions of this body. And so we just open it up for almost a discussion item, and then I'll go through each one. And then if there's no motion, then I will just move to the next one and then to the next one. All right? Clear? So, Ms. Turkelson, and maybe even, I know we've all had a conversation around this table, we had a public hearing. So Commissioners, do we have any additional questions for Ms. Turkelson related to any of these 3 items before us? I see Landon is also with us in case there's additional questions that you may have. I think we're all pretty well familiar with this, but I want to give you an opportunity to ask any questions.
Is that Landon or Weed Man? Which one is that?
Yeah.
Oh, wait,
AKA.
okay, gotcha. All right. Make sure.
AKA.
All right, so no additional questions about these waivers.
Yep.
So I'm going to walk us through each one. So the first one is a resolution to object to a separation distance waiver between Lexington Park and the proposed medical marijuana facility at 3 and 9 Lexington Avenue Northwest. Do I have any objection to that? Okay, seeing no motion, I'm going to move to the next item. That will take us to 7. This is a resolution to object to a separation distance waiver between Weston Commons Park and the proposed medical marijuana facility at 3 and 6 Lexington Avenue Northwest. So is there a motion to object?
So I don't have a motion to object, but is there room for just dialogue? So could it be opened up with the planning department just having some on-record discussion about what this is that we're not putting on the floor, so that there could be record of this coming before this body? Is that a possibility?
Yes, I mean, I think anything's a possibility as we review these. So maybe going back to the original, Ms. Turkelson, just maybe broad overview of the 3 items before us.
Okay, sure.
Summary.
So you have before you the
Just add, and even including, you know, what came from the public comment, I think, you know, that's what we would typically do. So I don't want to lose sight of that as we're trying to clean up how we did this the last time.
Okay.
So I respect
Thank
what
you,
you're trying to do, but just want a little
Yes.
bit more conversation.
Okay, thank you. So you have before you the three requests for decisions of whether to object relative. I know you have the park information and the addresses, so I won't belabor that. Relative to Lexington Park, we did receive a marijuana facility at 3 and 9 Lexington. You did hold a public hearing on November 12th. I would say generally the comments were focused more, I guess, general to marijuana and access to medical marijuana. There was some comments relative to the fact that the Lexington Park has not been fully developed yet, that it is still kind of a vacant remnant parcel of the former elementary school that has also been considered for redevelopment, but has not yet come to fruition. There was a comment noted by the public concern about the transfer from being a medical facility to a recreational facility. And again, I know that that is a future policy decision, but I think at this point, at least from a planning department perspective, we're anticipating that there would be an additional process to convert a medical facility to a recreational. It's a future policy decision, but I think it's important to reiterate the fact that we are solely focused on the proposed facility being a medical marijuana facility and not a recreational. Landon does have more specificity relative to kind of a land use analysis for each park, so I will move on to the West Commons Park public hearing that was received for the same facility at 3 and 9 Lexington. Again, the comments were a little bit more general about general support for having access to marijuana. There was some comment noting the fact that there was not, I guess, a wide knowledge that that park existed and perhaps was separate enough to not really influence Fulton Street businesses in general. So a lot of the comments were not necessarily specific to the standards that you have to review in your policy. Relative to the facility proposed on South Division 2249, oh, and I'm sorry, before I move on, Lexington Park, I'm not sure if it's relevant to your decision, but just so that you know the full scope of the Planning Commission's consideration, in addition to a park waiver request, they will be required to consider 2 church waiver requests for the same facility. So now, moving on to South Division. We do have, again, general comments about support for medical, marijuana and access to that. I think that there's a general feeling that the Burton Woods Park is pretty well remote in terms of its proximity. It's over 3,000 linear feet from a practical distance. There's a disconnect, or feeling that there's a disconnect between the entrances between the park and the proposed medical marijuana facility. So there seemed to be a little bit more public comment that was relative to your the standards within your policy. Landon has more information on the general land use analysis if you'd like him to do that, or we can just defer to if you have any questions.
I think that is sufficient, considering we've talked about this and already had a public hearing, but I'll turn to my colleagues. Commissioners, do you have any additional questions about these 2 locations?
I'm sorry, just to be consistent, the division property would also, in addition to the parks waiver, require a church waiver. I'm sorry.
Thank you. That's good to know. Thank you. It did lead me, though, to wonder, and I'll ask our city manager to follow up on this. I would like to know the plan for Lexington Park. We've had that in our park system for quite some time now, and the negative feedback about that space is concerning. So going back, though, to the question of the waivers, any additional specific questions?
I'm just glad you brought up Lexington Park. I mean, that was, during the time on GRPS, when GRPS was divesting themselves of some schools, it was something that we worked out to negotiate that any of those schools preserve those green spaces for city use. And, obviously that building has not been redeveloped or done anything with, but the fact that the park, it's green space, it's there, it doesn't really function as a park as of today. So it's not, while it's important that it's included in this discussion, it's really not a productive park asset in our portfolio. So
It is concerning, because we worked hard to secure those green spaces and playgrounds, and we had the same issue over at Eastern. So I'll ask for a follow-up on that.
Well, Mayor, and before the vote, if we can clarify, I did have a chance to visit with our Parks Director yesterday about the intent for park improvements in Third Ward, and I believe this is on the list for this year. Is that correct? Can you come to the mic and confirm that, please?
And I think one of the other points of that, though, is as those projects as GRP has divested themselves of those projects to become productive assets, I think the hope was that whoever redevelops them will be able to leverage the park as a tax,
Asset.
well, as a potential way to do a tax incentive for them to redevelop a park and then, be able to write off some of the cost of doing that, so.
Yeah.
Good morning. Just to clarify, we have been doing some public outreach and engagement with the neighborhood around Lexington Park, and we are planning improvements that will go under construction starting this spring.
Oh, good.
So we will see those improvements coming to the neighborhood this next year.
Great. Thanks. Thanks, David.
Then I have a follow-up question to that then. Given Commissioner O'Connor's comments, then is it wise to move forward with that, or is it wiser to wait until there is a redevelopment project so that that becomes an incentive in some way?
I think that was
Not
our
necessarily.
intent
That's an
initially,
intent. I
but
don't know if it actually was going to work out, given the fact that they haven't been sold. So I don't think
Okay.
from a public good standpoint, we just need to make
Get it done.
the
Yeah.
investment. And that way the investment's up to our standard and it's done as well as our department does. Well,
Yeah, okay.
similar to Eastern, right? That park and that
Yes,
space
yeah.
sat there. A portion of it still needs some
But they came
significant work.
together nicely at
Yeah.
the timing.
Yeah.
David, we see you got the gray memo. Thanks for.
Thank you for that, David. All right, so we already moved on from item number 6. We'll go to 7 then. Is there any motion to object to this waiver? Again, this is to the waiver for 309 Lexington between Weston Commons Park. Is there a motion? All right, seeing none, I'm going to move us to the 8th item. Is there a motion to object to the separation distance waiver between Burton Woods Park and the proposed medical marijuana facility at 2249 South Division? All right, seeing none, that fails. All right. So Commissioners, those will not be on our consent tonight, correct? Just want to clarify, those will all be off. So the items before us tonight at our night meeting will be items 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, so with that, Commissioners, we have a number of executive sessions today, so I'm going to call for a vote. But before I do that, I want to turn it over to our city manager, who was just recently notified of our annual report from the Municipal Equality Index. So this is an index that's done every single year. We work really hard to make sure that we are on the leading edge, I should say, and meeting expectations around equality. So do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. The City of Grand Rapids has been participating in the Human Rights Campaign Foundation's effort to nationally evaluate municipalities across the country regarding human rights, and particularly treatment of people who are LGBTQ and other equality issues. And last year, our score was 76 out of 100. And this year, we have been noticed that we have improved our score based on municipal policy and other things that they evaluated to 92 out of 100, which now elevates us into the top 20% or so, 20, I think, around top 20, 25%. So there are 500 plus cities that they evaluate, and this helps us in terms of creating more welcoming kind of community, and as people look to relocate to certain communities, that's one of the factors that some people may look at. So I want to share that. I think the national announcement will be going out today, and we'll also be doing a local media release.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll add my thanks to our Community Relations Commission. They have been supportive of this work and really looking at what we can do to improve. So,
and much appreciation to our Office of Diversity and Inclusion. Ms. Patty Caudill has been working very hard with the commission as well as our equity office. So thank you so much.
yeah, thanks, Commissioner Kelly.
I'd also like to thank our staff because they've been proactive, and there's a prisons group. I was able to go to one of their lunch and learns, so thank you to them as well.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so with that, I'll call for a motion to go into executive session. Commissioners, we have executive sessions for pending litigation, and then we have 3 this afternoon for appointed officials reviews. So can I get a motion? All right, and I'll go around the room. Commissioner Park?
Yes.
Moody?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes?
Lanier?
Yes.
O'Connor?
Yes.
And Jones?
Yes.
And I am a yes. So Commissioners, we're going to go down to 6:01.
Yes.
All right, 6:01, and our city attorney will join us down there, and we'll start immediately talking about pending litigation.
We do do we need to do a separate vote for the?
I did them all
evals, too?
together.
I thought they were,
I have them all in one motion.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
because I said them all.
Okay, yeah, but I didn't know if they had to be separated out, but okay, if you're satisfied, I am.
City attorney says we're good.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Thank you.